Welcome to Metal Priestesses podcast. I'm Josie Jacobson. Today on the show, we have musical guests, Rockin' Josie Cotton and the dynamic Ginger Coyote from White Trash Debutants and Punk Globe magazine. Josie had a hit in the 80s with Johnny Are You Queer and performed in the cult classic film Valley Girl. Josie's song Maneaters Get Off the Road / Invasion of the B-Girls has a cameo with Ginger zooming by on a Harley. The question is, Josie or Ginger? Take it away, Wendy.
It develops. We urge you to stay tuned to radio and TV and to stay indoors at all costs.
As of 12 noon tomorrow, say goodbye to the world as you know it. Say goodbye to...
Metal Priestesses.
Hi, Ginger.
Hi, Ginger.
So, hi, Ginger. I've been talking to you a lot lately. Let me introduce you to the other hosts. We've got Elizabeth from Here She Roars blog.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. I'm excited to have you guys on.
And then we've got Josie Jacobson, and she's from the reformed Backstage Pass. We got back together, and when did we get back together? 2018. So,
Hello.
welcome.
And you had Nipper playing with you, right?
We did. We had Nipper Sea Turtle on bass. Yes, we sure did.
Nipper used to play with me too.
we're just pass each other around, don't we?
Yes, I love Nipper.
Yeah, she's great.
That's
she's
the best
wild.
name in the world. I didn't know who she's on my Instagram somewhere, and that name, just like I was so obsessed with it. Like Nipper Sea Turtle. What?
Yeah, her name is Gwen Kahn, and her grandfather was Gus Kahn, who wrote like all these famous songs from the Tin Pan Alley.
Oh, really?
Wow. Crazy. Yeah.
Isn't she related to Groucho Marx too?
I don't know. It could be her. I'm not sure. But Gus Kahn is her grandfather, and he wrote like, yes, sir, be my baby, you know, all that kind of really, actually Dream a Little Dream of Me. He wrote the lyrics.
Wow. Up on the roof and stuff like that. Real songwriting.
Real songwriting in Tin Pan Alley.
Yeah. Cool.
So there was even a movie done about him with, I think it was Doris Day was in it or something like that in the 50s. But
yeah, she was a great singer, Doris Day. She's an underrated singer.
Definitely.
I think that her mom was from Groucho Marx's family.
Wow. I'll have to ask her.
I think a stepdaughter or something of Groucho Marx.
Well, she inherited the sense of humor, that's for sure.
Yeah, she's always has stitches. But we wanted to ask you, Josie and Ginger. I feel like I'm on Gilligan's Island. How did you guys first meet each other?
Well, we have a mutual friend in common, and she was telling me about Josie, and I think the first time that we really ever met is at the knitting factory, right, Josie?
I think so. Yeah, that was. I can't remember what show it was, but I definitely remember meeting you. But the show has disappeared from my memory banks.
Yeah, I think that Helen was there, and Gustav and his wife, and then we went backstage and we started talking, and we were talking about Kathy Peck, and one thing led to another, and
yeah,
we've been hanging out since.
Oh yeah, we've been getting in trouble every time we go out or just kind of any kind of thing that when we used to leave the house. There's always something just crazy happens. So that's something I can always count on with Ginger.
That's because you guys are a couple of man-eaters, right?
So yeah. And then I had to bring her into that video. What she kind of stole the show on that one.
Definitely. Ginger, were you riding a Harley?
Yeah, no.
No, not a real Harley.
No.
You still were badass though in that video, Ginger, for sure. I was a little afraid.
I was
Looked like the tail of the hunt at the beginning of it. But when I'm in the gang, I look pretty good, fairly good.
Well, and the electric carving knife, that's pretty frightening. We unplugged electric carving knife.
Right. Well, our whole podcast is sort of a tribute to Wendy O. Williams.
Oh.
Because we're called Metal Priestesses Podcast.
Yeah.
And Elizabeth, why don't you ask her what Wes Beach wrote to us? Ask Ginger.
Yes, Ginger. Wes wanted to know if you remember driving around with the Plasmatics.
I remember that I was at their show, and I think we were going to go to a party afterwards, and we were all in a car together. That also happened with Cyndi Lauper the night that John Lennon died.
Oh.
And so, but yeah, I remember being in the car with the Plasmatics. And then later on, I did that show at the Ritz with Joey Ramone, Debbie Harry, and Richie Stotts, who was the nurse, was in that show.
Yes, he was good friends.
The Circus of the Perverse.
Yeah, he was good. He was on our show, and he just said he was very good friends with Joey, who sounded like such a sweetheart.
I love Wendy O, though. She's great. I saw their show up in San Francisco, and she was so much fun. And she's like a vegetarian and all that stuff, really into health food. And she loved animals, so
yeah.
She's cool. Yeah.
She was, I think, vegan since the late 60s.
Yeah.
And Ginger, you spent so much time on the San Francisco scene and Backstage Pass. We played at the Mabuhay Gardens, and we played with the Mums. We played with Devo, who are nominated for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame this year, finally. And we also played with I think we did a party with the Nuns or something like that. I don't know. But you know so much about the San Francisco scene. Can you tell the listeners who I'm sure wish that they could have experienced it, what it was like?
Well, San Francisco was really close-knit because it's a small, it's on an island. And so it isn't that hard to get around there. You could take buses everywhere, and that's usually what everybody had to do because parking is really hard in San Francisco. So we all knew each other. There at the beginning, there was the Mabuhay Gardens, and then there was 330 Grove, which was a gay community center, and then the Death Club, the Pit, and then they started doing shows over at the Jim Jones's the Temple Beautiful.
Wow.
That's where the Clash played.
Oh, wow. I remember when we first played at the Mabuhay, people threw popcorn at us, and that meant that they liked us, but I thought it meant the opposite.
Oh, no. The popcorn, that's what they would do, is that they would put out baskets of popcorn on each table and salt on the and make all the, put a whole bunch of salt on the popcorn to make people buy drinks.
That was smart. A good plan.
Oh, yeah, it was very smart. I remember when Cher came in with Val Kilmer and they were sitting at the table eating that, they were eating popcorn and she spit it out and she goes, who poured a box of salt on this shit?
The bartender. That's so funny.
Yeah, really. No, the busboy. He was in the back making the popcorn.
Ginger, would you ever write a book about your life? Because your stories are amazing. I was doing my research and it's just incredible.
Oh, yes. I'm doing a documentary and I'm talking a lot about, things that for people that I was involved with and people that I met and all that sort of stuff. Josie's going to be, we want to do an interview with her, but because of this COVID thing, it's hard for them to get down to Canada. But she isn't in it yet. But Jane County, B.B. Buell, Polly Perrette, who else is in it? Jack Grissom. Lynn from Vanessa from Pylon and a whole bunch of people like that are all in it. Cindy Wilson from the B-52s.
Oh, I love them. Jack was just on our show. He was so funny. He was hilarious.
Oh my God, he is so funny.
I took Josie to their last show, and she'd never seen him before. But had you seen them before, Josie?
No, I'd never seen B-52s. Never.
Yeah, but we went backstage and Cindy was really, really sweet to her. Fred was a little weird. Kate was a little odd, but she was all right. But the guitar player like Josie.
Yeah, they're a great band. Josie, do you remember, I think it was 1982, must have been around that time, 81, I'm not sure. You came to Strait Jacket and you signed my little autograph book, and it says "Rockin' Josie Cotton."
That's how I signed it?
Yeah.
I didn't sign "Keep on Rockin'" because
maybe you did.
Rockin' Love.
Maybe you did. I'd have to check, but I just loved trying clothes on you and all that kind of stuff. And I so much wanted you to do one of my songs because I was a songwriter. I'm still a songwriter, but I would just remember how it was not that easy to get through with Larson and all that.
Larson, yeah.
The publishing was such a cat fight.
No, you should have just said to me,
I know.
About all the people. Yeah.
I think I was intimidated. You were so beautiful. You still are.
No, that was the best clothing store on Melrose, and when Melrose was really
we were on 3rd. We were before Melrose.
Oh, before Melrose. Okay, well, you would have been the best store.
Thank you.
But it was just great. It was I bought tons of stuff there too.
Yeah. It's like right up your alley. But Elizabeth is a huge fan of the movie Valley Girl, and I know she wants to ask you questions.
It's what made me buy Convertible Music, which
really?
Is such a great album. Yes. Yeah. So how did you get invited to be the performer at the prom?
Well, I think that for some reason the director just really wanted me in this movie, and I was I thought it was kind of brave of her because Johnny Are You Queer had been banned everywhere. I was like a pariah in the world. I took a lot of bullets for that song. And so, but she really wanted that song in the movie. And I just thought, well, okay, it had kind of flamed out, it was all over the world. And then it just, I don't know, it was on a death spiral. So she just insisted, and Larson kept hanging up on her every time my producer, he would
see.
He thought it was not, that she wasn't a director, or that it wasn't for real. And I couldn't believe he was hanging up on her. I was going, come on, man, just talk to her. And so finally, they did. I didn't know it was going to be such a landmark kind of coming of age movie for so many people.
Yeah.
Especially guys. It seemed like that. I always thought it was a girls' movie because it was like a romantic comedy, mostly, but with amazing music, of course. And even if I wasn't in it, I would say that. But so many guys come up to me and just said that was like it changed their life because they knew it was okay to be weird. It was okay to be artistic. You didn't have to be a jock to be, to be in the world. And it was really nice. I still hear it. It's just crazy.
Right. Well, the villain in that movie, his name is Tommy. And he's like the jock guy. And Quentin Tarantino loves that movie. It's one of his favorite movies of all time. So every single movie he's done, he has put Tommy in his movie.
Oh,
even if it's just a little small part.
I wish you'd put me in one of those movies because I'm like the biggest Quentin Tarantino fan on the planet. Oh my God.
Oh, he'd probably love to hear that. You should get in contact.
I did that whole the record I did of all B movie theme songs, Invasion of the B Girls. I completely had him in mind, when I was doing that. Well, and John Waters too, but it was just very influential person.
He loves that movie, so you have an in right
hilarious.
there.
That's hilarious. But that's when who was the star in that? I always forget his name. Sorry. Yeah, he was so cute. He was
so cute.
He was so, and I remember we did this reunion of all just like in 2008, 19, and all the musicians and the whole cast, and they played the movie. And the director, Martha Coolidge, was saying that when they were trying to find the lead, I always thought this, I never knew this before, that they had all these pictures, not mug shots, not prisoners, but actors' photographs, and they were all. She said they're all too cute. They're all too cute, and she went on the bottom of the pile and pulled out this Nicolas Cage's picture, and I said, "This guy, he's not too pretty. He just has personality." And I went, that guy, and she didn't know who he was or he was connected to, the movie business at all. I just thought that was such an interesting story.
Well, she must have heard Johnny, Are You Queer? If she came to you. Yeah. So she heard it first and said, that's got to be my movie. But your outfit at the prom is just iconic. It's so 80s and new wave, and it's just so perfect for that scene when you're on stage.
I still have that skirt, and I have a matching purse that I never got to show in the movie.
Oh, wow.
I got that remember the store called Cowboys and Poodles?
Yes.
Oh my God. And they had that there. It was, obviously it's from the 60s. And then some people, my friend a stylist got really mad at me because I wore the shirt I wore, the boat neck. I don't know. She was furious with me.
I thought it looked good. You have my
approval. It reminded me of some of the styling you did, Jen. So I wouldn't have been surprised if she would have gotten it at Strait Jacket.
Yeah, I had to think about that.
Yeah. Josie, what kind of reception now, because I know you still perform, what kind of reception do you get when you do Johnny, Are You Queer today?
Well, I always close my sets with that song, and I think they would lynch me if I didn't. They go crazy. That's for them. It's just a fun, memory, and they just love it, and they don't know all the the controversy around it, or I was banned by in Amsterdam, and like all this.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and so it's sweet, I try and find different ways to sing it because you're singing it every time you play. So, but yeah, I'm glad I did that song. I wouldn't redo it.
Ginger, can you tell us a little bit about White Trash Debutantes?
Well, we started in 1989, and our first show was with Gigi Allen.
Oh, my God. Stop.
And I remember that we played at a place called the Covered Wagon up in San Francisco, and Biafra was there. And so Gigi Allen wanted to get a picture with me and Jello. And so he was just standing between us, and he was putting his arms around us, and all of a sudden I started smelling stuff.
Oh, no.
Like, oh God, what's this? And then I remembered that he like shit on stage.
Yes.
So both Biafra and I had all this stuff covered all over our backs. So we went into the bathroom and washed each other off. And I remember I sprayed Jean-Paul Gaultier perfume on Biafra.
Lord.
Oh my God.
Fun. I used to hang out with Biafra a lot before the tours and stuff. I met him when he first came from Colorado. His name was Eric Bichard. And he was trying to put a band together. And we become friends. And then he got the band together. And we got stopped once going to the farm, which was another place out in Potrero Hill. And cops knew who we were, and so apparently Herb Cain had gotten wind that we had gotten stopped, and they said, well, your turning light was not working, and Biafra said, I promise I'll go straight from now on. The Midwest, but I mainly grew up in San Francisco. I was really young when I came from the Midwest. I couldn't stand the snow and all that crap, and the Republicans and all that stuff, so I had to get out.
Right.
Ginger, I was reading, there was a woman in your band named Pat, and she was older.
Oh, Lenore, well, there was two of them. There was Punk Rock Patty, who smoked weed and had pink hair, and she was a hoot. She would with her, when we had her on the road with us, she always had a plaque so we could put it up in our car so we could park in all these places where we normally couldn't park, which was really great. And she used to be a waitress, so she knew as soon as we'd go into a restaurant, she'd go, set up for 5 on table 4.
Wait, how?
She was really funny because she would go. She worked for on the hydrogen bomb down in Augusta, Georgia, and we played with. I can't remember the name of the band, but they were over in Pacific Palisades. We stayed over there, and we were all really tired because we'd just gotten in, and we were upstairs sleeping, and I was upstairs, I was listening at the window, and this one guy says, the old chick told me that she made a hydrogen bomb. And I don't think she made I actually worked on the bomb itself, but she probably worked as a secretary or something. But she was always funny, and she'd tell that story, and it would always get more elaborate the more weed she smoked.
Well, how old was she when she joined the band? Do you even know?
I met her doing marketing research, and we had another one named Lenore, a real cool chick. And she was kind of hip, but not quite as hip as Punk Rock Pat was. Punk Rock Pat liked MDC, the Dead Kennedys, and bands like that. She was really big on, she liked punk rock. She said it was like a shot of adrenaline for her. And that she, between that and smoking all this weed and everything, she would dance and she'd get in the pit and stuff. She was pretty fun.
Wow.
We did Punk Fest up in Portland, Oregon with her, and the Adolescents and all those bands were there. And we were downstairs getting across the street at the Brown Derby getting beer. And I heard some cop look up on the hill, and she was up there with the guys in the Adolescents and I think Channel 3. And he said, God, now I've seen it all. There's an old woman up there with them. And I go, she's in our band. And I go, she's a punk. And we go, yeah, don't you see her pink hair? And then they're going, how old is she? And then one time we invited Tanya Harding to join our band.
Yes, and I was going to get there. Yep.
And when we were going through Canada at customs, they asked why we had Punk Rock Pat with us. And I said, well, she's part of her band. And they were going, what does she do? And I go, she sings. And then they were going, oh, really? They were questioning her. And then they wanted to know where Tanya Harding was. And I said, well, she's a convicted felon. Would you let her into the country? Right. And they go, of course we would. We love Tanya.
Oh, boy.
That's pretty funny.
Weren't you also on the Jerry Springer show?
Yes. With her.
Yeah.
And it was her daughter was 50 years old and thought that we were soaking Punk Rock Pat for all of her money. And they kind of started all this trouble between us because they made us fly at 6:30 in the morning. And we had 3 transfers. We had no food. And they put us in a hotel, and the daughter got flown in the next day at 3:00 in the afternoon and went on one direct flight to Chicago. And so they were telling us that the daughter, Carol, was saying things like that we had made Pat charge all the equipment, and that she was renting vans and trucks and all this stuff. We said, none of that's true. She'd already gone bankrupt 3 times by the time we'd met her.
Oh, my God.
She didn't have any credit cards.
Amazing.
But Pat was fun. Unfortunately, it was hard for her to travel. She couldn't breathe and all that stuff. So we had to let her go. But I remember we played with the Cadillac Tramps up in Vancouver at it was in the Gaslight District. And Gabby, the guy from the Cadillac Tramp, or Gabby, the Latin guy, was the lead singer of the Cadillac Tramps, and I think he was a Manic Hispanic. He ended up putting the move on Pat.
Oh my God.
And Pat was calling all the hotels trying to find him, and
oh my
she
God.
had a crush on him, and it was pretty funny.
Wow. Josie, what have you been doing during COVID? When was the last time your band played?
Oh, gosh, I think, well, it was right before it was in Minneapolis. I did a show there, and I didn't know that was going to be the last one, of course, but what's been really, kind of grounding is just I'm re-releasing my whole catalog because on my own label now, because they were all scattered in the wind and all my records, and so it's been kind of great to kind of giving them the kind of the press and a real release that they never got. I would just make them and just kind of like then move on. It was just something people didn't get to really hear or know about even. So that's been great, and just trying to work on a new record and different projects and stuff. I've been really busy. We've been signing new artists and on my label, and
What is your label called?
It's called Kitten Robot.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
And were you able to re-release some of your earlier music? I think were you on Elektra?
Yeah. Well, this was the year that I got my masters back from Elektra, the first records, which was quite amazing, a feeling to finally have possession of them, so that you can control your children, or whatever.
Yeah.
Think of your records as wayward, family. And so that's been amazing. And, Convertible Music, they only made those albums up until 1984.
Oh, wow.
And and it hasn't been out since then. And they never put out a CD for some reason, which made it really hard to pay them back all the money, they say I owed them. But anyway, so we were able to put it out on, do a new vinyl and add the B-side of Johnny Ain't Queer, which was called Let's Do the Blackout. And not many people heard that. It was never on a record. So we did that, and we did kind of the artwork inside, and then actually did a CD. It was the first CD ever made of it. And through Bump did a co-release with us and
Bump Records.
Yeah, because that was how originally Johnny was on Bump Records. And
oh wow, I have a Bump Records T-shirt that I just bought. I love that.
I love them, and Susie and Greg were so great. And so it's like full circle. I always say I should never have left Bump Records because Elektra just pretty much dropped me off on the side of the road when they realized Johnny was controversial, which was funny because that's why they signed me. So
that's so strange.
Well, it's interesting. I'm doing the first time releases for a lot of songs my bands did, Second Language and The Trend in the late 70s and 80s. And it's so interesting because there's such a market for it now, it seems. And so it's really a good time to be doing that. So it must be kind of exciting. And as you said, you got to do all those bonus tracks and everything. So will there be a lot of new material?
Well, I mean, on my new record, there's going to be new material, but I don't know I don't think that I would have found out about that. It was kind of an accident that after 30 years, you get to get your masters back from the labels. A lot of 80s bands are doing that, but they don't tell you. And there's a window. And if you don't get in there, you lose that opportunity. And I just a freak accident that I even knew about it. So anyone who had a record out in the 80s, they have to give it back to you now. And they're not going to tell you. They're not going to let you know.
No, they keep that very secret. I did find that out myself recently, and it's so interesting. I mean, you'd think that would be broadcast everywhere, but even the magazines related to the business and all that, the dirty secret, right? I meant by new stuff, I meant like other bonus tracks, like you mentioned, the flip side of the single, where there'd be a lot of unheard songs.
Yeah, I did, well, on the B-Girl record, the Invasion of the B-Girl, the theme songs from B-movies, I don't know if you're familiar with that one, but I originally had recorded Female Trouble for that record, and then John Waters talked me out of doing it because he was going to do a compilation of Divine songs, and because of that, he wrote the liner notes because to thank me for not releasing it. And all this time, that was so we were able to put that song on the record. That was really great, and people just didn't know about that record, so that was fantastic. And I think the other ones are pretty much the same. What the very last one we're doing is my last record, Pussycat Babylon, and so that's the next one. That's going to be, we're going to do a whole release because no one heard it, except it did go, one song went #1 in Lithuania, and that was my
Lithuania. Wow. Now that, I'm sorry, but you got to put that on the front cover. It says #1 in Lithuania.
#1 in Lithuania. I never went #1 before, and so when I recently did this radio show, and it was, and I in after the interview, he was saying, well, we were talking about that record, and I said, well, that's the only place I went #1 is in Lithuania, and he goes, that's crazy because we had all these, they were getting all of these emails from people in Lithuania when I was going to do the show. And he said he didn't understand what was happening because it was Lithuania heavy, inundation.
Well, that's great.
Josie, did I ever tell you that I met that guy that made the movie Maneaters Get Off the Road at a shock film festival downtown? That's when I was hanging out with Mink Stoll and Herschel Gordon Lewis. Yeah, and he loved that video. He did? Yes.
Oh, I wish I had known. God, he's gone now. He's not around.
Yeah, I saw that, but he wanted to. He loved the video, and he wanted to. He said, "I gave him your contact and everything." But I don't know. He was older, so.
Oh, so he
But
wanted.
He was nice. He was real sweet.
Nice. Oh, he was kind of a genius, kind of like demented. It was not genius, but I mean, it was just so classic. I don't know how to say it. I mean, if you have an odd sense of humor like I do, it's genius. But yeah, I mean, that was just this. If y'all haven't seen that movie, it's a must. It's just so good and bad.
Well, maybe our podcast is going to be #1 in Lithuania. What do you think?
Well, I just got back my Ancestry.com and I found out that I'm like Latvian, Lithuanian, and all that. So I'll buy a copy. Maybe that'll count.
That's hilarious. Okay.
Wow. Hey, I have a question for Ginger. Ginger, yeah. I'm trans. And
hi, how are you?
Hey,
you kind of remind me of Dee from L7.
Oh, right. Wow. Okay.
The drummer.
Remember,
I know her.
Josie, when we were sitting at the table and that guy kept cruising us, and I go, "Oh, we're probably going to get tossed out," and then it ended up to be the drummer's Dee's husband, who I'd made out with.
All right.
And I made him turn. He had this big tattoo on his back and stuff. And I said, "Oh, now I remember." And then afterwards, when Josie had lost her phone, so we came back in. We were looking for the phone, and Dee said, Dee came up and said, "My husband is so happy he got to see you." And I go, "Yeah, I bet." But no, we played with L7 at the Bears Lair over in Berkeley, and I don't know, we just got along, and I can't remember what all we did, but he remembered it. Not that he was going to kick us out, but kick us out of this table. And in other words, he was real sweet and very nice, and said, "Do you remember?" And I go, "Uh-huh." After I saw the tattoo. But he was a nice guy. But what was your question?
Oh, well, so, I read your interview with Jane County from a few years back, and which is so wild. It's great, and it's typical Jane. It's so interesting, and Jane was obviously pretty iconic for me.
Oh yeah, Jane and I are old friends from. We knew each other from Donna Destry and all those people, and Cherry Vanilla and I are good friends, and so that's how we all met. And
Jimmy's sister, right? Jimmy Destry's sister?
Yeah, Donna.
Yes.
She interviewed Jane for this last issue of Punk Globe, which is really, the interview did really good, and she asked very, very good questions. She was great. But Jane's who we came out here, we were trying to, Howie Pyro was going to put together a band for Jane, but it just never happened. So I got Justin King and some other guys together, and we went into that rehearsal studio down on Melrose or on Santa Monica by Hollywood Forever, and we rehearsed for like a week with Cherry and me and Jane, and got down all these songs and everything. And then we went out to Jimmy Don Bowles had Robot Studios, or not, that's Josie's thing. It was the studios out in Watts, and we went out there and recorded, and we were all dressed to the nines. Holly Woodlawn was there in a wheelchair, and all she kept yelling is, "Where's my wine? Where's my wine?"
That sounds right.
Oh, that was pretty fun. That was a fun time. It was like 100 degrees, and they had an air conditioner at that studio, and you couldn't even feel it. We were just soaking, and it was so tiring because we were doing like 7 hours a day.
Boy,
you think my voice is hoarse now? It was really hoarse that day.
Hey, Ginger, I wanted to ask, just go back a little bit, back to the Motörhead Gardens.
Uh-huh.
Because when I played there, I was like 18 years old, and half of us, we stayed with, we crashed at Merry Monday. And the other half, I remember I slept in the closet it was Ed Clay's place. Do you have any memories of them that you could fill in the dots for me?
Well, Merry Monday, she was one of the first performers at the Motörhead. She used to be a tap dancer. And I don't know, she wasn't in the Lesnick Litz, but she was one of the first performers that made friends with Ness and used to perform there before even Dirk got into the picture. And then she did that song called Ricky Boy, Don't You Know I Gave My Punk Jacket to Ricky. And
right.
And yeah, she had all colors, orange, black hair and stuff like that. And she lived over, I think, at the Leland Hotel, as I remember. Yeah. She died of cancer. It was sad.
Yeah.
But she was a pioneer, that's for sure.
I think
we used to do shows together at the Palms. We did a gong show. We hosted it there.
The other person that I have a really strong memory of is Jennifer, is it Moreau?
From the Nuns.
She was beautiful. She was just so stunning. And
yeah. Right now, I did a duet with her on their album. They're re-releasing 3 Days in a Motel Room, and it's coming out in Italy. It's going to be an import over here. And it's called Do You Want Me on My Knees? It was the song that we...
Oh, my God. Do you have good pictures of her?
I don't. We didn't. We were so silly. It's when I was with Gaze. I was living with Gaze X, and he produced it. And we just didn't, our phones weren't cameras then, and it was... But she was so wonderful. I just thought she was...
I know somebody who has some great pictures of her.
Really?
Well, I'll connect with you later about that.
That would be amazing. Because they were asking me, do you have any pictures of her, like this label in Italy? And I don't know why they're doing it as an import over here, but I guess there's a much bigger market in Europe for really authentic punk from the era. I was surprised, but that's the thing. And yeah, and I know the whole story of that song. It's total irony, and it's a very feminist song. Despite the title, but it was her song about a famous actor who almost sued her, and National Enquirer almost sued her, because she wrote an article, and then they wouldn't publish it, so she wrote this song, Do You Want Me on My Knees? And it kind of tells the story, but I know this. It's a horrible, weird story about Sylvester Stallone. So it's about.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ooh, got a little piece of info there.
Yeah.
She was quite striking with blonde hair and very tall, and I was totally mesmerized by her.
She was hilarious too. She was like a really funny girl,
I think we got to play at a party with them in San Francisco. That's what I remember.
With the Nuns?
Yeah.
Oh.
And the other band I really loved were the Avengers.
With Penelope.
Yeah. And then they also
was there
played.
too.
They also played. They also played at the punk rock fashion show at the Palladium. It was Blondie and the Avengers.
Wow. The drummer for the Avengers just played on a track from my new record.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, he's a great drummer.
Yeah.
Danny Furious, is that which one's playing with you, or is it the guy from Screeching Weasel I think he used to be in Screeching Weasel or something. That's what I'd heard.
What's his name, Josie?
What's that?
I remember Danny Furious, but I haven't. I used to hang out with Greg from the Avengers, so the guitar player.
Yeah.
What's your drummer's name, Josie?
Well, I mean, it was just one song he did. So, and Paul Rossler found him, and I'm really bad with names, so I can't. But I remember saying, "Who is this person?" And because he does the stuff remotely, and Paul said he was amazing, and he said, "Oh yeah, I used to play with the Avengers," and then my girlfriend said, "Oh my God, they're an amazing band," and I listened to them, and now I'm a big fan. But I don't remember his name. I'm awful. I'm an awful fan.
That's all right. That's okay. You tried.
I did.
It'll come out on the lighter notes.
Yeah.
We did a show with the Avengers for the Jerks and Tribute at the Great American Music Hall. It was the Contractions, White Trash Debutants. Who else was on there? No Alternative, and Biafra was the MC. And
were you at the Motörhead Gardens the night that Alice Bag played and Sid Vicious showed up?
I never saw Alice and Sid Vicious together. Sid Vicious, the only time I ever met him is when it was they played at Winterland, and he was with Lamar, and he was all strung out and passed out at the MAB and everything, and somebody introduced me to him, but I wasn't very impressed by him.
Well, that's funny because Alice said the same thing.
Yeah, he was just kind of. Helen Keller was there too. Ruby Ray took that picture of all of them together, and I don't, he didn't do it for me.
He kind of went on stage when the Bags were playing, and he just kind of, I don't know, hurled himself around or something like that, right, Elizabeth?
Yeah, and we asked Alice about it, and she was like, "Never meet your idols."
I love Alice. I mean, Alice is the best. She rocks. I saw her we played a show for, not Music West, but it was up in Portland. They did it like North by Northwest, and we were in the registration thing, and she had Sharon Needles and Judy from Betty Blowtorch playing with her, and they recognized me. And then Alice didn't recognize me at first. And I said, we used to hang out all the time at the MAB. And then I started telling her about things that we did with the Blasters and with, who else was there? The Blasters, and also, and Alley Cats, Diane Chai. I love Diane. She was so sweet.
I love the Alley Cats too. They were
too much junk. I mean, they were a great band.
Yeah,
and she was so good.
Yeah,
and so cute.
Yeah, she was.
Speaking of cute, I heard really bad news about Kat from from Babes in Toyland. Yeah, and that's sad.
Yeah, her liver, I guess, it's unrepairable.
We met like about 10, 12 years ago, and she was going out with a guy from San Francisco in a band called Louder Than God. And we hung out and we became friends, and she helped us get on some shows with Babes. And she was really sweet. She was really fun. She was telling me about how Courtney stole all of her show clothes and cut them up, and about how she smeared all that lipstick the way that Kat had done it with that red lipstick.
I love Babes in Toyland. I love Elsa, because I grew up primarily in the 90s, so that was like my generation. But my favorite was always the Lunatics.
Babysitters on Acid.
Oh my God.
Jan Brady. Jan Brady has returned to her classes.
It's so funny because Theo, the singer, she married Sean from she married Sean from the Toilet Boys. Yeah. And they have a daughter who now has an Instagram. She's like 10, and she calls it Food Disorder. And she makes videos, and they're just so punk rock, and they're all about food. It's the cutest and hilarious thing. And she's the product of these two amazing musicians with such amazing style. So I always tell them, I'm like,
we toured with the Lunatics and some band that it wasn't Real Big Fish, but they had fish in their name. And they had the drummer from Offspring, the blonde-haired drummer that was playing in the Offspring, playing with them. And I remember that he was real nice. They put him in a cramped dressing room and then he'd come into our dressing room and change and stuff. And I go, oh, you can take off your clothes here any day. He was fun. He was sweet. And the Lunatics were really fun. I got to Cindy and Gina. Gina and I got to be really good friends. And Squid, sort of. Thea was nice. She was always right up front. She loved punk rock Patty. And they were getting booked by Stormy, whatever her name is, Stormy, that was in Salt Lake City, that was friends with Rancid. So I used to hang out with Tim Armstrong when he was thin. And now I'm in that Green Day movie, Turn It Around. And he was at the premiere for it over at the theater down there by the Bank of America on Sunset. And he came up to me and I thought he was one of the guys in Duck's Dynasty. Go,
oh my God, I know that beard. Tim, get rid of it.
Yeah, he worked with my kids' last band, the 10th band, I believe.
I'm a diehard Rancid fan. And
oh, yeah, I mean, we used to play when Rancid first started playing, and that was before they got that drummer Brett. But we used to do shows with them, and the bass player Matt. I used to go out with Rudolph Martin. That played Anton on All My Children. And anyways, one of his friends from All My Children was John Callahan, and he was married to Matt Freeman's mother.
Oh my God.
So I was teasing him, going, tell us about your soap opera background. We played this big show up at the King Theater in Seattle together. That was so much fun. We stayed at that hotel that was down the street going up to Vancouver and stuff on that freeway. And the Seattle Inn, we stayed there. And they had the pool, and we had a pool party afterwards. And that's when Lint was skinny and stuff, and it was fun hanging around him. That was before Brody.
So this might be a fail, but I want to ask you, since it's Valentine's Day, does anybody have any Valentine's Day confessions? Josie?
Well, I don't know. You're supposed to confess things on Valentine's Day.
I neither. I just made it up.
I have Valentine's regrets.
That counts.
I don't know. I'm so removed from romance right now. I just, my animals or my relationships, any kind of touching, it comes from them. And so
I love that.
I've just kind of learned that I'm probably not really great with that, side of life, the romantic parts. And I'm kind of resigned to it now. So it's a good feeling of just being free of that constant hunt and search for love. I'm kind of released from it. It's kind of wonderful.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I love it.
What do you all think of what's going on with Marilyn Manson? Like, was that ever an issue of when you guys were performing in the 80s? Like, was there like domestic violence issues that were going on that was like hush hush, everyone knew about it and you just didn't say anything? I
used to know Rose McGowan when she lived in Hollywood, and she used to walk that little dog around all over on Hollywood Boulevard. And we started up a conversation and everything, and then we ended up being kind of friendly. And she was really sweet and everything, and she was going out with him at that time. And she was I know that she hated Courtney Love, and because Courtney was giving her a lot of crap. They were on tour together, Marilyn Manson and Hole. Mm-hmm. she was complaining about her, but she didn't complain about Marilyn Manson all that much. But then she moved to Beverly Hills when she got that gig on Charmed, and she changed so much. And now she seems like she's QAnon. I mean, she's like going on and on to Alyssa, calling Alyssa Milano out for supporting Joe Biden and all that stuff.
No.
And then there was a director that she had molested all these boys and stuff, and she liked him. So, and then her assistant committed suicide, and the assistant had an email where Rose McGowan said that she was in a hot tub with that Jeffrey with the Weinstein, and that she made a big mistake, and that she was going to live to regret it and stuff. So I don't know. I don't know about Marilyn Manson. Jane met Marilyn Manson. I met him. I was with L7 up in Eugene, Oregon, and they played with him there, and I went backstage and I met him and stuff. I don't like that, the dope show and all that. I wasn't all that much into that music that much. And he certainly didn't do it for me. He was no Liam, no Chris Hemsworth, as far as I was concerned. I'm after the hot guys.
Oh, what I remember was in the 80s, I met Linda Ronstadt in 1983, and I started living with her in Brentwood on Rockingham Way. And she lived across the street from O.J. Simpson.
Oh my God!
And we used to go for walks, and then he was out there scowling with his chow chow dogs, and she said, "Genny, I don't trust that man."
Marilyn Man. His real name's Brian, right?
O.J. Simpson. This is O.J. Simpson. So she said, "Genny, I don't trust that man," and I was like, "Okay," and I was like 23 or something. And then she moved away before that whole incident happened.
Thank God.
She moved.
Wow.
I don't know. I think that, like that, whatever her name, Rachel Evans or whatever her name is, that actress.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like you hit me once, you're the fool. You hit me twice, I'm the fool for sticking around. I mean, if he was abusing her, I'd have tossed that guy out right away. He would have been, I don't take shit from those kind of guys that much. It's not worth it.
Yeah, it's, I mean, I don't understand why she was with him or anything, but the other women that are coming forward were kind of like not famous. So I can see why they would have stayed. Maybe to get some clout.
Oh, yeah. I mean, especially the makeup artist that said that he pulled the gun on her.
Yeah, but now I'm like, why did that Evan Rachel Wood stay? Like, she was more...
But there was another one that came out that was kind of famous.
From Game of Thrones.
Yeah, I can't remember which one it was. But, I mean, everybody's got two sides to them. I'm sure that... I'm guilty of it. Everybody's guilty of it. But I don't know that much about. I never would ever enter any kind of relationship where I'd be around him very long. So I don't think that he just does not do it for me. I mean,
oh God, he is so ugly.
To go with him would take about 25 Quaaludes. Robert Plant only took 3.
What were you saying, Josie?
Yeah, I mean, the thing about him that what I've read recently, I never knew anything until recently of what all these people are saying, but it seems like, the real abuse was psychological.
Yeah.
And that's how you get people to stay around. It's like it's a sadistic game. You're horrible, and then you're slightly nice, and then you're horrible, and people are very susceptible to that, and they're brought in, and they start allowing more and more, crossing over certain boundaries. I mean, it happens all the time with with human beings, and he's not attractive. He did write that song "Hurt," and that's one of the most amazing songs. So, but yeah, I think it's more psychological than the physical that I would be worried, watching out for.
Well, I worked as a psychotherapist for a while,
Yes.
and it's really hard. It's the way it's sort of like a grooming process in which you kind of get to control somebody, and a lot of people, because of traumas in their past or just because of the way in which they are groomed by the person, really it's hard when you're in the middle of it to see outside of it. I mean, a lot of us say, well, yeah, we wouldn't get caught up in that, or we'd hit them back and walk out the door. But it's not that easy for a lot of people. And I think it's important just to say that, because, I mean, I think all those people were victimized. And even the thing about, Joe Biden, I don't know why people don't believe Tara Reid, when there's the whole Me Too thing. So it's a dangerous area.
Maybe also the fact that Tara Reid also has been caught up in a lot of her scandals too.
Yeah.
Conning old people and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's true. That's true what the press said. But on the other hand, there's also a tape of her mother calling the Larry King show to say that her daughter had been, was being harassed by somebody, and that's who she was working for at the time. So, to sort of summarily dismiss certain people as being liars and other people, I mean, like you said, we've all got negative things in our past. Hopefully none of us is beating people up or being psychologically attacking people and stuff like that, but I think that it's such a slippery slope, because I tend to believe people, and there are liars out there, and it has happened. But I've seen it from being the point of view of being a therapist and seeing how abusive relationships just really mess your head up, and just sometimes you can't see your way out, and until it's too late usually. So I just wanted to say that. I mean, I don't know the specifics of the situation, so I'm not going to weigh in and say I know for sure, but the more accusers there are, the more likely it is that something has happened, and so you've got to feel for those women. Yeah,
I mean, if there's a pattern going on, if there's a pattern of abuse, I mean, just one person, a lone person, I mean, that would need a lot of evidence, I would think. But if it's like a pattern of behavior, like that agent or the producer who was that yes, that guy. I mean, that's a pattern. That's like and Cosby and all of that. That's But if somebody, like a single person, someone questionable like Tara Reid is saying that about Joe Biden, who's it's very much not a pattern with him. So.
Well, except that there were 6 other accusers who talked about like inappropriate touching and stuff. So,
well, that he was a hugger. I mean, I don't think that's a crime.
Yeah. Well, some of them though did even say more like touching. That just felt inappropriate. I agree. We don't know. But the point is to demonize one of them and not the rest of them. I think you got to sort of give them the benefit of the doubt, and other things that each of us have done. I mean, Joe Biden's lied a lot in his life. We saw those old tapes of him saying he was marching with Nelson Mandela and all this stuff, and it's not true. So I would be really careful about dismissing anybody's claims, because I think in a patriarchy with toxic masculinity, I think it is something that you just really have to give people the benefit of the doubt. Of course, a false accusation is a horrible thing too, and it has happened and it will happen. But I think that's the minority of the cases. So I just careful, social media and the press for them to kind of be making those decisions. I think you really need all the information. That's all I wanted to say.
So when you guys were all in Hollywood back then, were there any like weirdos? People were like, don't go near him.
Well,
don't hang out with him.
But Johnny Depp is getting it now too.
Yeah.
It seems like, he's getting fired off of movies and stuff. I feel sorry for him, kind of. I mean, when I met him, he was living at the Fontenoy, and he used to have a big motorcycle. And I went up and knocked on his door, and because my friend Michelle Merrick used to live there with Crispin Glover, so she got me in, and so I went and knocked on his door because Joey Ramone wanted him to come to see their show at the Roxy. And he answered the door with just a towel on. Oh, God. It was when he was on 21 Jump Street.
Oh, my God.
Now, him, I had no problem with. Marilyn Manson, no. But Johnny Depp, when he was on 21 Jump Street, ooh, was he beautiful.
Yeah.
He was a hunk of burning love. Joe Biden, I'll say, has brought sanity back to the White House, which is deeply appreciated. And he also picked Kamala, a woman who's for vice president, which is to be. And I think that he's listening to Bernie a lot and trying to get this $2,000 and $1,400 through to people and everything. And trying to look after them. And it's the Republicans, Ted Cruz, him.
Why aren't those guys in jail?
And that Halsey guy. Ugh.
Why
those
isn't he?
Two need to be horsewhipped and run out of Senate. I mean,
and
absolutely.
Mitch McConnell.
Whatever happened to whatever happened to Teresa?
No neck McConnell.
Let's end
Jim
on a
Jordan, who worked with that guy that was at the university that was harassing those boys and stuff.
Well, and speak of that,
Jim Jordan was a coach for that guy at a basketball team or something.
Wrestling coach.
All those right wingers. Let's get Katie Porter. I love her. She's my idol.
And speak of the king of all the accusations was Trump himself. I mean, how many women? 23, something like that. I mean, it's a no-brainer. The guy is as guilty as sin, but he's not in prison either, is he?
No.
Did anybody listen to Stormy's podcast with Michael Cohen?
No.
I saw it,
I heard
but I
it
didn't
was
hear
really
it.
good.
Yeah, I bet it was.
She just said that it was the longest 2.5 hours that she had ever been around such a bore, that all he did was talk about himself and talk about how she looked like Ivanka and how he could guarantee her not to win The Apprentice, but he could get her on The Apprentice. And so she banged him, and she took one for the team, and she got to describe that little mushroom. And that, to me, I love Stormy. Stormy rules. Stormy's had the best. I mean,
Ginger, who is your? Let's end on a fun note. Ginger, who is your celebrity crush?
For me, well,
it could be back in time.
I met James Franco on an airplane. I liked him a lot. He was so sweet. Oh, who else? And I know Zac Efron we did a thing for Hairspray. It did an opening at the St. Charles Theater in Baltimore, Maryland. And I was friends with the owner or with the head bartender, the manager of the bar that they had the party afterwards. And Zac Efron was like 20 years old. Amanda Bynes was there and Brittany Snow, and none of them could drink. And anyways, me and Zac Efron ended up talking because we're born on the same day and everything. And then I ended up getting him alcohol, and I got him really drunk and everything. He was really fun. He was sweet. Well, I like that Chris Hemsworth. I think he's really cute. And also for an older guy, he was in Bad Times at the El Royale. John Hamm, I like him.
Oh,
He's fun.
He's cute. How about you, Josie?
Gosh, I can't.
You can go back in time if you want to.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really get crushes like that. I don't know. I fall in love with people's talent or their minds more than like kind of crushes. I don't know. I can't think of one person, honestly.
Not even Elvis Presley?
No.
How about you, Jen?
If I were to go back in time, my 18-year-old self, I would pick Paul Weller from the Jam as my punk rock crush. That's my punk rock crush.
He was cool. I met him before. I met all those guys at the Temple Beautiful. They played there.
How about you, Elizabeth?
My punk rock crush was always Lars from Rancid.
Ooh, Jessie?
Not Tim. Lars.
Okay.
It's a punk rush?
No, I made a punk rock crush, but you could choose anybody.
Well, of course, I would choose Sonia, my
your
wonderful wife.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
You have a Valentine. You're
I
off
do.
the show, Jesse. Goodbye.
Oh, darn.
Well, I'm going to go crush on some chocolate-covered strawberries. How about that?
Nice. That's nice.
Is that the guy from Hercules? Was it Kevin Sarborough?
Oh, my God, what a dumbass he is.
He seems
he is?
Oh, yeah, he's a big Trumpster.
Oh,
Hey, I'm
no.
trying to
Lucy
end on a good
Lawless.
note. I'm trying
He's
to
no
end.
Lucy Lawless, that's for sure. I love Xena.
Right,
Xena's-
she's the opposite of him. That's exactly right.
You know, she's
Right.
brilliant. She's
Yep.
so sweet.
Yes, she is.
Well,
Yes,
Josie, I can't wait to hear your album when it comes out.
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
Thank you so much. This
Can
is
you tell
fun.
us when you're going to debut it? Do you have any idea?
Well, you mean my brand new one or the re-release of the one that?
The brand new one.
Oh, I don't know yet. I don't know. We're right. I had Clem Burke play on it a couple, and Lee Rocker is playing on.
I'd say Debbie Harry's my other crush.
That's a good one, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Gosh, it's
I
hard.
liked another guy that I had the hots for was William Levy. That he used to do the underwear ads, and he would wore the cheesecloth underwear where you could just see everything.
Oh wait, I can tell you one scary story. I went on a date with Chris Isaac, and he just wanted to stare at me.
Which one?
Chris
Now,
Isaac.
he was cute. He
He just wanted to stare at me, so I shoved a guitar and said, "You look like Elvis Presley. Why don't you play me something?" And then I sort of snuck out. You know.
Oh, Chris Isaac. Oh,
he was adorable.
I've known him for ages up in San Francisco.
Yeah.
He used to be in the Silvertone, or he was in the Silvertone, and with John Silvers from the Dills. So he was playing drums with him. Yeah, Chris Isaac is
He was
down in
cute.
Nashville living now, and
Yeah.
there was some sort of, he was allergic to the soil or something in California. That's the reason he had to move to Tennessee.
Wow.
Well, couldn't he just stay out of the dirt?
Oh, and Chris Isaac's got a horse dick. Oh God.
I wouldn't
And
know.
one
He
time
just
I
wanted
went
to
over to his-
stare at me.
He
I
lived over by the ocean, and he never drank. And one time we were at the Map, and he started drinking Jack Daniels. He invited us to come over there, and he put on a wetsuit, and he changed in front of us, and he had just like a donkey. I mean, it was like William Levy. William Levy was on Dancing with the Stars, and I went to a party for Derek Hoff invited me to a party with the Dancing with the Stars thing, and I saw William Levy, and I said, "Oh, can I ask you a personal question?" He goes, "What is it?" I go, "Are you real?" And he goes, "Well, don't I look real?" And I go, "No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about another part of your anatomy that I see in ads for underwear." And then he grabbed my hand and said, "Does it feel real?" And it was, oh God, he was so cool. I like Chris Evans too, that actor, Chris Evans. He seems like he's cool. I met him once.
You're out of control, Ginger. You have
Yeah,
too
you see,
many
you
crushes.
heard it the first time here on Metal Priestesses.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show. It's been such a pleasure having both of you.
Yeah.
Sure.
Thank
it was
you.
fun. We covered so much, including Donkey Dicks and Chris Isaac.
Ginger, we popped your cherry. You've now done a Zoom.
Or repopped it anyway. So-
Yes.
There you go.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
Love
you,
you both.
ladies.
Love you. Thank you.
3, 4.
Battle Priestesses.